Reuben Riley's first ever law desk, a successful attorney whose practice extended past Hancock County into Marion, Shelby, Johnson, Madison, and more. Reuben's intelligence and thoroughness as a practitioner eventually led him to become a state legislator. But did you know he likely never went to law school? Well, if you're wondering how he could have even become a lawyer in the first place, that story is a little bit more complicated. For much of early America, law looked a lot different. While attending college wasn't necessarily unusual for colonial men, there was no established law schools. You might hear the occasional law-based educational lecture if you were in college, but college was not meant to train lawyers. Instead, hopeful candidates would have to pursue apprenticeships with established practices. Through the 1700s into the early 1800s, slightly more formal law education began to appear. Some lawyers actually opened private schools in their homes where they could train potential students with tutorials or lectures. However, these schools just provided education and did not actually give out degrees. These schools were located pretty much exclusively on the East Coast and cost money. See, law was already establishing itself as a white-collar profession even this early in its history. However, there was a workaround here. Many early lawyers actually passed the bar using a method called reading the law. This is a method of self-study wherein students could actually just read books about legislation, creating laws, practicing laws, running a practice, entirely through their own methods and having no formal schooling whatsoever. This is famously how Abraham Lincoln entered the law profession, and in fact is still a possible option today in some states. California, Maine, New York, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington all still allow this method to becoming a lawyer today. Reading the law actually allowed a huge amount of class diversity to enter the profession, as it removed the need for those tuition fees as well as apprenticeship fees. In fact, Lincoln once wrote that it was the quickest, cheapest, and best way to become a lawyer. The early 19th century saw a lot of law schools attempt to establish themselves with larger universities. This move towards legitimacy, however, quickly fizzled out. See, the 1830s saw a rise in Jacksonian democracy, which advocated for a less aristocratic approach to a social order. Lawyers who had spent the better part of 100 years trying to establish themselves as the new social elite obviously were at odds with this philosophy. Local bar associations lost popularity and prestige, and the requirements to pass the bar actually got a lot less strict. In Indiana, the requirements were generally pretty loose, but required one to be a voter, which essentially meant a white man, have a certification of good moral character, the specifics of which are pretty vague and undefined, and then lastly, being able to pass the bar entrance exam. As far as Reuben goes, we know for a fact that he read the law. In fact, he read the law at the office of Andrew Kennedy in Muncie, Indiana, in about 1840. Then he entered the bar in 1841. Much like pretty much every other lawyer in the 1840s, his practice would have been extremely general. See, most towns of Greenfield's contemporary size would have had 1 to 2 attorneys at most, which meant that Reuben and his partner Rutherford would have handled pretty much any legal dealings that needed to happen. Family law, circuit law, criminal law, they really would have had their fingers in a lot of different pots. Obviously, things are a little bit different today. Nowadays, lawyers are expected to pass a bar exam and also attend about 3 years of law school at an accredited university. In fact, during the time that Reuben would have been practicing in 1842, the first ever law school in the Midwest opened right here in Indiana. Murrah Law School opened its doors in 1842 and saw its first graduating class in 1844. At the time, the graduating class included 5 students. Nowadays, Murrah sees over 150 graduates yearly, and those graduates are expected to have a lot more specific professional careers. They might become criminal attorneys, civil rights attorneys, or, like my brother, Murrah School class of 2019, a public defender. Law is one of the many industries that have changed so much since Riley's lifetime. What are some other jobs that you're curious about learning the history of? Put those in the comments down below. In the meantime, I'm Rebecca McGovern, and this has been Museum Minutes. Thanks for joining us!